Hey, thanks for stopping by. My name is Tyler, and today I'm excited to announce that I have passed my Certified Kubernetes Security Specialist, or CKS, certification. So I wanted to hop on and make a video going over what I used to study, what I changed between my first and second attempts, because this one did take me 2 attempts, and also provide maybe some advice for any of you out there that are currently going for the CKS or really any Kubernetes certification. So let's go ahead and get into it. To start off, I want to talk about how long it took and what I used to study. I'm not going to go super in depth on every single resource that I used to study because I did make an update video a few weeks back that really went over all of the things I used to study in a little bit more depth, but I figure I'll go ahead and go over it again. So starting off, the first thing I did to prepare for the CKS was I watched the KodeKloud course written by Mumshadman and Beth all the way through. I went ahead and did the labs as well my first time around, but I really wasn't super worried about making sure I retained everything. It was more, I just want to make sure I'm starting to understand these topics. After that, I went ahead and read the study guide written by Benjamin Mushko. So again, pretty short book. I would throw it in as an optional thing to do. I don't think it adds a ton, but I do like to always pick up a textbook for my certification. So I did, and it's kind of exactly what you would expect. It's a lot of just reading YAML manifests and talking through the theory of a lot of the things that you're tested on the CKS. After that, I went ahead and went back to KodeKloud, and I actually went through Mumshad's course again, all of the videos and all of the labs. But this time I made myself categorize every single lab based on how I felt about it after going through it that second time to really try to drill into the topics that I was struggling on. Following the second time through that course, I went ahead and watched the Killer SH or Killer Shell course that is on YouTube. I don't remember the name of the guy that produces it, but really high quality course, super in depth. He walks you through all of the scenarios, which I think is super helpful. I like that you can go through and see a lot of this hands-on stuff in video form. So you get a small break from labbing yourself and you get to just kind of follow along and watch someone else do it. So it's free on YouTube. It's like an 11-hour video. Absolutely think it's worth a watch. The last thing I did was I went ahead and did some practice tests. So I went ahead and started with the KodeKloud practice tests. I do have to say, these ones could have been a little bit more challenging. I will say I think the questions on the CKS are just slightly harder than the practice questions you get from the KodeKloud course, but they're relatively similar, so I would still absolutely recommend doing those practice tests a whole bunch of times to really get familiar with different scenarios. After I went through the KodeKloud ones a couple times, I went ahead and hopped over to the Killer Shell practice tests. I went ahead and did those like 2, 3 times, I think. This was all before my first test, so keep that in mind. So with all of that out of the way, I went ahead and took my CKS for the first time, and I failed it. I think it was mostly because of time management. I just really didn't manage my time well. I ended up running out of time on a pretty important question and just didn't get a chance to even go back and check my work on anything either. So, first attempt did not go super well, but I went ahead and gave myself another week to study and scheduled my retake for the following week. So, I took a week between attempt number 1 and attempt number 2 to catch up on some of the topics that I knew I was still a little bit rough on. And then I went ahead and took my second attempt and I passed. So lots of prep work for sure, lots of labbing, lots of hands-on. Definitely a pretty difficult exam to pass, but of course not impossible. So with a brief overview of everything I used to study out of the way, I want to go ahead and just talk about kind of what the exam is like and what you can expect from the exam. Of course, not like actual questions or anything, but just in general, what are you getting yourself into? So as far as content, it's kind of exactly what you would expect if you go through the KodeKloud course and you go through the Killer SH course and you do your practice tests. I don't think you will struggle from a knowledge perspective because the exam doesn't really try to trick you. Almost every single question I got in the exam was covered in the course at some point. So from a just what's on the exam perspective, it doesn't like try to pull a rug out from under you. No trick questions as long as you go through and you do the provided CKS courses. But that's really only half of what makes the CKS such a tricky exam, as I found out. And what makes it so difficult, in my opinion, is time. As I said before, on my first attempt, I ran out of time, and a lot of that was just due to spending too long, like double, triple checking things, and then also looking at questions that were going to take me longer to dig through docs to figure out, looking at those questions for too long rather than focusing on the questions that I knew I could solve quickly. So, time management is a huge deal on this exam. You really have to be ready to focus on the questions that you know the answer to, or you know you can get the answer to pretty quickly. And then those questions that you might take a little bit longer to Google and not Google, just look through the docs, I guess, to find the answer, I would say focus on those last because it's better to get the points that you know you can get than spend time trying to get points that you're not exactly sure that you can get. So time management is hugely important on this exam, but again, it's not impossible. It just takes some serious studying and some decent test taking skills. I wanted to keep this video a little bit short just so I'm not reiterating things I've said in past videos, but if you guys have any questions around the CKS or really any of the certifications you see here, drop them in the comments. I am always happy to answer questions or provide recommendations. And of course, I love talking to you guys. With all that being said, thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your week.